Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Palmetto Sports Daily. I'm Rick, and today have the three talented ladies with me. We've got Bronwyn in Charleston, Teagan in Myrtle Beach, Caroline in Greenville, and hey, it is conference tournament time for the ladies. The Gamecock women, they're in Greenville. They had a quarterfinal matchup today against 17th ranked Kentucky. The Gamecock ladies are number 3 nationally. And South Carolina just played the Wildcats 5 days ago, and they escaped with a 4-point win. That's their smallest margin of victory this season against an SEC team. We have some video of the Gamecocks leaving their hotel. And the Gamecock send-offs, when they're on the road, fans gather at their hotel, giving out high fives, snapping pictures. And let me tell you, it was a good day for South Carolina at Bon Secours Wellness Arena. They had a poor shooting day Sunday against Kentucky. Not the case today. They were 53% from the field, 50% from threes, and some very important stats here. Points off turnovers, 25-8. They out-rebounded Kentucky by a slim margin, 36-30, but points in the paint, 46-24. Fast break points, 15-0, and that's why the Gamecocks come out on top, 87-64. Now, their next game will be in the semifinals tomorrow at 4:30 against either Oklahoma or LSU. Oklahoma handed the Gamecocks their only conference loss this year, and they had a very spirited, tight contest with LSU and Baton Rouge. But the way the Gamecocks played today, Teagan, Caroline, it looks like they're on their way to another trip to the Final Four.
Yeah, Rick, I mean, I don't think that that's a bad assessment at all based on what we saw today. I was actually out there at that send-off down in downtown Greenville earlier this morning, and it was so fun. The fans that are out there are absolutely ride or die for this team. As we know, they started lining up probably 30 minutes before the send-off happened. The band was out there, the cheerleaders were out there, and then, of course, the bus was honking as they pulled out, and everybody was cheering and everything. And the scene at the well in downtown Greenville, just a couple blocks away, was also incredible. There were people playing all kinds of games out there, all kinds of garnet and black all over the place. So big Gamecocks crowd, also big Gamecocks crowd in the arena. You talked about that offense, but the defense was also at play in both of the games that they played against Kentucky. But one of the Gamecocks' fallback items this season is that defense. They hold them to just 64 points. They forced 19 turnovers. They had 10 steals and 27 defensive rebounds. So they were flying around on both sides of the ball. Teagan, what do you think about the Gamecocks' outlook, maybe through the rest of the SEC tourney and then afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see more of what their offense did today. The Gamecocks have had a couple of wins this season where it's been pretty close and it's been in that 60-point range. So if the Gamecocks can achieve what they did today, against Kentucky, then that's a good thing for them going forward. I think the only outcome that might make me a little bit nervous as we're looking at this next round for them is if they do have to play Oklahoma, like Rick mentioned. That's their only loss of the season so far, and it was not a pretty one to see. They just couldn't find their rhythm in there. So, yeah, I hope that their offense can do that again today, Bronwyn, or next time.
Yeah, I'll definitely take that tag. I got some interesting stats for you. You know I love my facts and my stats, okay? So they're 30-1 as the top seed in the SEC tourney all time. They're so dominant at the SEC tourney, no current SEC head coach has beaten South Carolina in the tournament, and only one active head coach in the country, that's Houston's Matthew Mitchell, has beaten South Carolina in the tourney, which he did in 2014 with, funnily enough, Kentucky. They're going to have to face, as you mentioned, the winner of Oklahoma LSU. There's some really big contenders, obviously, in the SEC. I think it's the toughest league in the country. You got South Carolina number 3 nationally, Texas number 4, Vandy number 5, LSU number 6, and then Oklahoma number 7 nationally. So how far do they go? We don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, Bronwyn, definitely something to keep an eye on, and regardless of who ends up winning that second quarterfinal later today, you guys will know by the time you are watching this episode of Palmetto Sports Daily. It's going to be a fun one, whether it's Oklahoma or LSU, two teams that are maybe the few two teams that gave South Carolina a challenge during the regular season. So that'll be fun to watch, but the SEC women's tournament, not the only conference tournament going on. The Clemson women are playing in the ACC tournament down just outside of Atlanta in Duluth, Georgia. They won yesterday's game over 8-seed Virginia, advanced into the quarterfinal round today. That did not quite go Clemson's way. They got a rematch with the 1-seed overall in the tournament, Duke, who, if you remember back to 2 weeks ago, the Tigers knocked off, snapped a 15-0 ACC winning streak. There's that video from right after the game. They snapped Duke's 17-game winning streak, had a buzzer beater 3 there towards the very end to go ahead and win it from Hannah Cohn. So super exciting, but that was not the story today. Things were kind of back and forth in the first quarter, and then Duke really pulled away in the second quarter, outscoring Clemson 18-5 in that frame. They then got out to as many as a 25-point lead, forced Clemson into 21 turnovers. It was actually the second lowest scoring for Clemson in ACC play this season, only putting up 46 points as the Blue Devils hang on, or I guess say cruise is probably the better verb there, cruise to win it 60-46. So here's some reactions from Clemson's side of things after that tough loss and being bounced out of the ACC tournament.
You guys did play Duke just a couple weeks ago and had a pretty amazing win over them. Did you see anything that they switched up on you guys that made it a little bit of a different challenge?
Yeah, I mean, we were on our home court. We had our fans behind us that whole game. It was really loud, a really loud atmosphere. And so I feel like that has a lot to do with it too. But they also switched up a lot of their defense. They did a lot of hedging last time. And this time they did a lot of switching. So I feel like that was the main thing that we weren't really ready for.
So Mia Moore there was playing through a groin injury today. It was kind of unknown whether she was going to be able to go today. She did play yesterday, but she put up a team-high 37 minutes and scored 17 points, a third of her team's points in that time frame, but it was not enough to get it done today. So Clemson feeling pretty good after yesterday's win over Virginia about their NCAA tournament fate, but of course they will find out with the rest of us on Selection Sunday, a week from Sunday, for where and if and when and all the variables they will be when that NCAA tournament rolls around. Teagan?
Yeah, I mean, tournament time is a great time for, looking at all these teams and really seeing what we can expect from them, especially if they get that spot in March. It's sad for Clemson that they won't be moving forward for that. I know that big win over Duke last week or the week before was still really good for the fans nonetheless. For Coastal Carolina men's basketball, they have yet to play their tournament game, but they will be doing so tomorrow. That's Saturday morning for those of you who watch maybe on Saturday morning. So Coastal Carolina getting ready to take on one of two opponents. It could either be Georgia Southern or South Alabama. Now, those teams are playing tonight on Friday, and of course the winner will move on to play Coastal Carolina. I think looking at both these teams, the one that I think would be more of a concern for Coastal Carolina is Georgia Southern, because Coastal has one win and one loss against them, and both of those games went into overtime. It was just match for match and everything in those games. So two very evenly matched teams. Could be a really exciting one for Coastal Carolina. I think the thing that makes the South Alabama possibility interesting is the fact that if you guys were listening to our show the other day, Coastal Carolina women's basketball lost to South Alabama, and there was a little bit of tension there at the end of the game with a brawl. So I actually saw a tweet the other day on Twitter that said, Coastal Carolina men's basketball punched their ticket to the SBC tournament to get the 3 seed, and someone commented and said punch was a very interesting word to use when talking about Coastal Carolina this week. So that could be an interesting matchup if maybe there's any tension that carries over from the women's matchup to the men's between those two schools. But yeah, we will have an answer for who they're going to play Friday night after they match up. So yeah, I'm kind of curious what you guys think of these possible matchups. I know that we've talked about these games on the show before, Rick.
Yeah, looking back at the possibility of a Coastal Carolina South Alabama matchup on the men's side, yeah, that would be pretty interesting to see if there's going to be a round two based off what the women did. I hope not. in that there is able to be a clean, very good sportsmanship type deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bronwyn, kind of curious on your thoughts on this one. I know this is our first time on the show together, but I'm sure you've heard a little bit about Coastal Carolina in your previous appearances. But yeah, I mean, this could be a chance for the Coastal men to punch their ticket to March Madness if they're able to win 3 games here.
Yeah, that's right. I love March because you never know. The excuse for it when there's an upset, when there's a crazy game, is it's March. You never know what's going to happen. Honestly, I think it kind of levels the playing field as we head into the NCAA tournament. I think anybody can beat anybody, and that's the fun thing about March. That's the fun thing about the tournament. I'm excited to see what Coastal does. All right, we'll take you right to break, but we'll be right back with Palmetto Sports Daily after this.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily on this fine Friday. We're going to switch it up and go from basketball to a little football talk. We got spring practices going on for a couple of our Division I teams, and we also have a new special teams coordinator who is official now in Clemson. You Clemson and Gamecocks fans probably know the name Rich Bisaccia. He's been around for quite a while. He is a nearly 45-year coaching veteran, about 3 decades in the college ranks, 25 years or so as a special teams coordinator in the NFL, won that 2002 Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And as you guys all know, head coach Dabo Swinney loves to bring back guys that have some Clemson connections, that have some prior ties. He was an assistant with Clemson way back when, and also a former South Carolina assistant as well. So he comes back to Clemson, returning back to Death Valley on a 1-year, nearly $1 million contract. And head coach Dabo Swinney has a couple reasons why he's excited to have Coach back.
He really loves me, and that's important. He really cares about me, and he loves Clemson. He wants to win a national championship. It's the only thing he hadn't done. So, great opportunity for both of us.
Great opportunity for both of them, maybe getting some fresh faces in there as he's done at a couple other positions on his coaching staff over this offseason after a less than desirable year last year, as Clemson fans I'm sure would refer to it that way. But Swinney described Coach Bisaccia as a leader of men and says all of his coaching credentials over the last 45, 50 years or so have earned him some instant credibility with the guys. But Rick, I know that you and Coach Bisaccia, you've got a story. I'll go way back or something. I don't know, but I figured I'd let you tell it. So tell us, how do you know Coach Bisaccia?
Well, it's great to see him back in the Palmetto State. I know I talked to him a few years ago, and he told me that he owned some property in Blythewood outside of Columbia, and he was looking to maybe one day return here and retire, I guess. But no, when Rich was with the Gamecocks, he was a special teams coordinator, maybe he was coaching the running backs as well. But anyway, I'm out to practice one day. Like back in the day, you could call over and say, hey, I want to come to practice, and you would be maybe the only media member there. So they had practiced on their old practice field, and they had to go back to the stadium, and that's where I was going to get my interviews. And Rich was working with the guys on a halfback option pass that they were going to use in the red zone. They were going up to play Tennessee that week. And he said, Rick, don't shoot this. I said, okay, fine. So I'm good. I didn't go to that game, but I'm watching on TV, waiting for them to get down into the red zone. On their first drive, they kick a long field goal. They don't get to the red zone. Well, that day was a long day for the Gamecocks. They never got in the red zone. They got beat 50-something to 3. So they never got to use it. And I go, gee, just when I had some inside intel, and it doesn't come to fruition. But Rich is a great guy. You'll love working with him, and glad to see him back in the state of South Carolina.
Well, maybe they'll hopefully, find some ways to get the Tigers back in the red zone there. Maybe he can kind of slide one of those plays over to offensive coordinator Chad Morris, spice things up a little bit. But that's an awesome story, Rick. And guys, we got way more Palmetto Sports Daily coming up for you guys, so we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily on this lovely Friday. We are getting ready for the weekend, but first we're talking about some weekend baseball coming up. Coastal Carolina getting ready to play East Carolina. Now the Chants are ranked 16th going into this matchup, and they've kind of continuously fallen throughout that top 25 in the beginning of the season. They're 7-5 on the year. They're coming off of a loss to NC State, a game that for a little bit in that game it looked like Coastal's bats were coming to life. They had 2 homers for Blagan Pato and then Dean Niehost, but they only got those 2 runs out of it. They didn't have anything on the bases to add to their total. So, it was nice to see them come alive a little bit, but their offense still kind of struggling to spread out the scoring. But head coach Kevin Schnall talking about his pitching staff and all the struggles they've had with injuries and everything with their, All-American Cam Flukie being out for at least a little bit. We caught up with Coach Schnall yesterday ahead of their big matchup against the Pirates.
Right now, no, Ross will be starting Saturday. Are we concerned? Sure. He's had 2 outings now in a row where, he hasn't gotten out of the 3rd inning, and it's, obviously hurt us through the weekend. When that happens, you get starts like that. It obviously affects your bullpen. It is what it is. We have 11 active arms right now. You guys can do the math. You've got 4 games, so you have 4 starters. So then you have 7 guys out of the bullpen. And, right now, it was great to see what Scotty Doran did on Sunday. But the bottom line is we need Scotty in the bullpen.
Yeah, they've had a lot of freshmen this year having to step up and do a lot on the mound, a lot more than they expected to. That was something Coach Schnall mentioned. He said, I woke up on January 1st expecting, a few of our veteran guys on the team and on the pitching staff to be able to be in here and do what we needed. And instead, we've had a lot of freshmen that we've had to put some pressure on, but they've definitely stepped up to the challenge. And it'll be a challenge this weekend for Coastal Carolina as they face ECU. It was a team that they faced in the Conway Regional last year to get that advancement to the Super Regional at Auburn. So, exciting matchup for Coastal fans as well to see here. And I know we've got some more baseball this weekend, of course, going on with Clemson, Caroline.
Yeah, Teagan, Clemson back in action. They have not a 3 but a 4-game series going on with LaSalle this weekend. So they will play later tonight on Friday. They've got a doubleheader tomorrow, and then they will play again on Sunday. They're coming off a 12-1 win over in a midweek game against Michigan State. That was actually at Fluor Field here in downtown Greenville, and a familiar foe for Clemson head coach Eric Bakich, who, as we know, spent some time in Michigan before he came to Clemson. So he probably knows the Spartans pretty well, but that was the Tigers' 10th win of the season, so their only loss coming against the Gamecocks in Game 1 of that Palmetto series. So Tigers are on a roll. They are holding starting pitcher Aiden Kanak out of this series, and Coach Bakich said nothing's wrong with him. He's fine. They're just trying to work in getting some rest for their starting pitchers before they really start ramping things up in the season. And I think some of these non-conference games or non-conference series, I should say, are the time to do that. So keep an eye on the mound. Probably have maybe a couple different guys kind of slide in, maybe slide the rotation up a little bit as far as starters go. But should be a fun one in Clemson. And this weekend, it's supposed to be gorgeous. I was standing outside earlier today and I was sweating. So should be a fun weekend at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. And Rick, I know that the Gamecocks are also in action this weekend too.
Yeah, they won their 2 midweek games against USC Upstate and Charleston Southern to improve to 11-5. And this weekend they're hosting Princeton in a 3-game series. As a matter of fact, playing an afternoon doubleheader as we record this segment of our show. And this is the final weekend before they start SEC play next weekend against Florida. So they're trying to get these final tune-ups in. They do have a midweek game next week against the Citadel. So the Gamecocks trying to get themselves right to wow, see if they can contend in the SEC this season. All right, that's going to do it for this segment. We'll be right back to wrap up another week of Palmetto Sports Day.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. It's a beautiful day outside. We talked about it a little bit before the show. It's a great day to play golf. We're going to talk about some golf. Clemson alumni Jacob Bridgman, get this, 4th in the FedEx Cup playoff standings. He's right behind Scotty Scheffler. He's currently number 19 in the world. He actually won the Genesis Invitational over Rory McIlroy and Adam Scott. And he's also atop the PGA Tour money list for his winnings at $5,216,960 in wins. That's above Colin Morikawa and Scotty Scheffler. He's right now playing in the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Rick?
Yeah, love to see him continue to do well and continue that fine tradition of Clemson golfers. Just want to correct something I said in the last blog. The South Carolina Princeton doubleheader starts tomorrow at 1 o'clock. They're playing a Saturday doubleheader and wrap it up on Sunday instead of starting on Friday.
All right, good to know, Rick. Thank you. For everybody who's going to want to be tuning in or maybe heading out to those baseball games, just wanted to say real quick about Jacob Bridgman. I thought it was so cool after he won the Genesis Invitational. He was sitting up at the podium in the post-game press conference, and somebody, like, I don't know if it was like a recorded video, if it was a FaceTime call or what, but it was head coach Dabo Sweeney who was on there telling him congrats, and, you know, he was all excited about it after he got that win. So I thought that was pretty cool. I guess coach keeps up with golf in the off season, so you know, who knows. But thank you guys so much for joining us on yet another Friday and another week of Palmetto Sports Daily. We hope you have a lovely weekend, and we hope to see you back here on Monday.